So, welcome to our second meeting. And our topic this day will be believing and trusting, beliefs as truth, beliefs as certitude, and the formation of a worldview. So, last time we talked about the very important topic on belief, on questions and presuppositions, and the basic trustfulness of life. So, this afternoon, again, our main source for this lesson will be this book by Raymond Festin, Beliefs and Certitude. Ayan. So to give shape and to give rationale of why we are learning, why we are studying world religions, and of course, the belief systems. Actually, hindi ko na ginagamit yung term na world religions and belief systems because we will uh, establish later on that each world religion is a belief system. So saying introduction to world religions and belief systems is actually a redundant topic, a redundant title. Okay, so let's begin. According to Christine, in practical life, we simply take the presence of the world and our own existence as something irrefutable, meaning we do not question it, we do not doubt it. We do this because we live and move in the world. Sabi ni Christine, we witness to the world. We live in the world. It's very obvious. Nakikita natin ang mundo. We walk on the world. Nararamdaman natin, for example, yung hangin. We breathe its air. And all of our affairs, both private and public, nandoon sa solid ground ng mundo. So to doubt that we live in this world does not make any sense. Such a doubt is obviously unthinkable and unreasonable. Of course, kaya kahit sabihin ni Rene Descartes na it's yung methodic doubt or yung Cartesian skepticism, that's a very important method or methodology in philosophy. But as Rene Descartes also knows, we cannot doubt everything. We cannot. No, we cannot. We have to first accept our being in the world as an essential fact before we can raise doubts about ourselves and the world at the cognitive level. So we do not begin our philosophical investigation, according to Festin, at the intellectual level. We begin our reflection at the very beginning, at the existential or experiential point, the way we experience it, the way it comes to us, and the way we interpret it. That's our starting point. For what comes first, both in the natural and logical order, is our presence in the world. So before we could step back from the world and hold it up as an object of research and investigation, we were first born into it. We were first born into it. Now, how about believing and trusting? Diba, we simply take it for we take it for granted, presuppose it. We simply take it as it is because we experience it. We are here. We are here and now. We feel the world, we see it. So our dependence on the harmony and stability of external reality assumes the form of an implicit belief. Implicit belief. Sabi ni Festin, as we have seen, we do not call in question the empirical immediacy of the material world. We simply take it for granted on the basis of self-evidence. It speaks of itself. The evidence speaks of itself. Now, therefore, if we trust the reliability of the external world, it is because we implicitly believe it so. Trust is built on the strength of belief. Trust is built on the strength of belief. We cannot trust someone if we do not believe that he or she is dependable. Now, that's the reason why everything that our parents taught us in our childhood, we believe it. We trust them. Because you cannot trust someone if we do not believe that our parents, our guardians are dependable. So the essence of belief is essentially unconscious. It is unconscious. It is always implied rather than expressed. So according to Festin, at the most elemental level of human experience, we normally do not make a distinction between the act of believing and the act of trusting. We do not distinguish between the act of believing and the act of trusting. For example, when we were born in the world, we were entirely and involuntarily dependent on our parents, the love of our parents, for our comfort and survival. So our dependence, our trust to our parents, our guardian, para tayo ay maging comfortable and tayo ay makasurvive. We cannot say that we knowingly believed and trusted them because of our total reliance on them. It is also this utter dependence on our parents or guardians that bred us the inherent predisposition to believe and trust other people and life as a whole. Ayan. So the same is true, sabi ni Festin, when it comes to religious beliefs and values. They all formed us from this elemental trust. A religious belief, for example, is not essentially a product of the investigation of the intellect or reason. It is a result of an unquestioning acceptance of a truth that is not usually corroborated empirically. Kaya ang sabi ni Festin, our natural propensity in childhood to believe and to trust also enables us to acquaint ourselves with the cultural norms and conventions of the community to which we belong. Kasi early on in life, tinuruan tayo how to play the social roles implicitly assigned to us within the recognized matrix of interrelationships. Kagaya nung part 1 natin sa first meeting natin sa basic trustfulness of life, we simply accepted it. We do not put it on question. So, especially during the childhood days that we were taught by our parents or guardians, we simply accept everything because of that trust that we have to those who are teaching us. But it doesn't mean that what we believe later on are not true. For example, beliefs as truth. So whatever beliefs, habits, and values na ibinigay sa atin during that formative years, we hold them until now as reliable, true, and even sacred. Nothing, sabi ni Festin, walang makapag-persuade sa atin or makapag-dissuade sa atin na hindi i-apply yung mga natutunan natin during that formative years. The habits that was formed in us. Ang hirap i-dissuade yan. Let's say, for example, the mga Chinese, the Japanese and Korean, you dissuade them of eating using their chopsticks because it's difficult. We cannot do that. Kasi nasa table manners nila yun. It's part of their ritual. That's part of their culture. That's part of their identity, their upbringing. We do not question their kind of table etiquette of using chopsticks, for example. Nor do we look for its rational basis. Why use a chopsticks? Kung mayroon naman kutsara at tinidor. In the same way, no one can talk us out of our practice, for example, of putting flowers sa tomb ng ating loved ones. Di ba? Kahit siguro atheist will not dissuade you from doing so. Why? Because we do not literally believe, we do not literally believe that the dead will smell the fragrance of the flowers. They cannot. Pero yung paglalagay ng bulaklak sa tomb, that is a significant figure. That's a significant gesture to our loved ones. A symbol of our devotion and love for them. That we still remember them. It is an important part of our emotional upbringing. Not just emotional upbringing, because mayroon din yung shape of a religious bearing, religious upbringing. Or for example, may mga religious beliefs that hold the souls and the bodies of their loved ones as sacred after death. That the soul continues to live. And laying flowers is a gesture that will that we might want to tell them that they are still remembered even they are gone. Such beliefs, values, and practices are invaluable aspects of people's worldview. Kaya this explains, according to Festin, why our beliefs, values, customs, and practices assume the character and force of truth and incontrovertibility. Kasi we will always consider our own customs and traditions as the most convenient, most serviceable, and the most reliable cultural equipment. We just cannot step back and assume a detached view of them. That's beliefs as truth. Now we go to knowledge and belief. Knowledge and belief are two different but interrelated aspects of human disposition. To know is basically an intellective act according to Fides. So kung sabihin mo na to know, in ordinary sense of asserting something, it implies daw that a person who makes the claim is prepared to give reason or reasons for saying so. Ah, alam mo pala. Bakit? Paano? And that if one is called upon, one can rationally demonstrate and justify the assertion of knowledge. Di ba? Ah, umiikot ang mundo sa kanyang sariling axis sa loob ng 24 hours. When you explain that to a child, ibibigay mong evidence pag tinanong niya, paano, bakit, di ba? You will give as an evidence the 24-hour time na meron tayo in a day to justify it. The evidence that the sun rises and the sun needs to set. So those are the evidence, those are the figures that you need to explain to a child. And that is merely knowledge. The locution I know, according to Fides, also entails the readiness to support it with a proof or evidence. To believe is not, at bottom, a cognitive level. Okay ba? Knowledge is cognitive, intellective act. To believe is not. It mainly arises from the fount of intuition and human emotions. Intuitions. This is also the reason why some scientists will always claim that our religious belief is a remnant of our irrationality, of our being animal. Because meron tinatawag na yan ay nanggaling sa fount of intuition and human emotions, not from the resources and strength of the intellect. For one does not believe because an empirical proof is at hand. Sabi ni Fides, one believes because one trusts. In fact, as for Fides, the essence of belief is that one dispenses with any empirical support to one's assent or affirmation. Yes, I believe you means that one relies on the sincerity of the other. That what the other says is something truthful and trustworthy. Kasi to ask for a material proof or demonstration of sincerity from a person in whom one believes would simply be out of place. That would contradict that nature and purpose of belief. Sabi ni Fides, in the act of believing, one moves from the empirical realm to the mystical or spiritual plane. What holds ascendancy in that sphere is not our knowledge, but our faith. Not our knowledge, but our faith. Of course, this is not to argue that knowledge and belief are mutually exclusive notions. In truth, sabi ni Fides, they are interlocked and interrelated. Since in real terms, one may complement and support the other. For example, one's knowledge may occasionally reinforce one's belief. And one needs a certain element of belief to acquire firm knowledge, which is traditionally defined as a justified belief. Knowledge actually is defined as justified through belief. Knowledge and belief may differ, however, in that they also play diverse roles in the formation of human attitudes and dispositions. The former is basically the function of the cognitive faculty knowledge, while the latter is the operation of human emotion and intuition. And I think that the word here must be complementary. They complement each other. What the one lacks, the one have. What one lacks, the other one have. The strength of knowledge is based on concrete facts and reasoned demonstration, of course. Now, the sense of belief is grounded in trust and personal assent to truth that is fundamentally inaccessible to any rational inquiry and demonstration. For example, sabi ni Festin, can you prove the existence of God? This is one question conceived from a scientific standpoint. Why prove? It is a craving for rational clarity, and it's good. It is a craving for rational clarity on a matter that is decidedly non-empirical in nature. Kaya lang, such a question is wrongly formulated, according to Festin. Why? Because the issue concerning the existence or non-existence is not a concern of human knowledge, but of belief. It is not an issue for science to tackle, and it is not an intellective concern. It is a matter dealt with at the level of human feelings and intuitive convictions. Kasi how can the way I will perceive the summum bonum or the supreme being now is this. If this is a God, therefore it must be outside space and time. If it is someone outside space and time, all our criterias in proving the existence or non-existence of such being cannot be applied to this, because everything that we have can only be applied, let's say for example, using scientific inferences, can only be applied to a material thing, something that is part or within the universe. Something outside of it, we can no longer infer it using the realms or using the techniques and the intelligence of science. Kaya sinasabi dito, that kind of topic such as the existence or non-existence of God is or should be tackled, or it is a matter dealt with at the level of human feelings and intuitive convictions. Kaya nga sabi ni Festin, religious beliefs, for example, are not primarily founded on any rational ground. Yet, they are uniformly esteemed as true and transcendent principles governing the thinking and conduct of the believers. So that's believing, knowing, and believing, knowledge and belief. Now, let's go to the formation of the worldview. Most of the time, we judge other people's beliefs in the lenses of science and our own biased opinion. We can, in fact, make our judgment and assert our opinion on the issue. According to Festin, the act of judge is a human attempt at neutrality and precision. It is an attempt to clear away the clouds of vagueness, constantly dimming our view of the different dimensions of reality. Kasi sa Festin, science is precisely tasked to do that. The problem is, there are many other aspects of human life, art, religion, language, ethics, etc., that cannot be adequately dealt with by using the metric of scientific objectivity and clarity. To bring these facets under the rigorous scrutiny of science will be a wrong move to make. Of course, this is sabi ni President, this is not to undermine and depreciate the importance of science. The scientific outlook is also essential to the survival and intellectual advancement of the human species. Kaya lang, it should not be permitted to dominate other ways of being and become the sole and ultimate mode of seeing and interpreting reality. That's what we are experiencing now. That the sole and ultimate mode of seeing and interpreting reality is by means of data, by means of an evidence that can be clearly seen. Kasi yun yung nangyari eh. Even religion, even our worldviews will be now under the scrutiny of science. Nakagaya ng sinabi ko nga kanina, it cannot be. It should not be permitted to dominate other ways of being, according to Festin, and become the sole and ultimate mode of seeing and interpreting reality. Notwithstanding the powers of science, the temptation to evaluate and judge another's worldview from a scientific angle and from one's cultural premises should be restricted. One may think, sabi ni Festine, that one scientific worldview is technologically superior to another. And this observation may turn out tenable and correct. In other aspects of human existence like ethics, religion, and art, science may prove inferior. Scientific worldview may prove inferior. So in the formation of the worldview, let us remember the important the important role of beliefs, the important role of the formation of worldview, the important role of that innate and natural tendency of trusting our dependence on others, that might be the certain criteria that might be used in knowing that what we believe is a justified true belief. That the worldview that we are subscribing to, is justified, not in the lenses of science alone, but in the lenses also of emotions and intuition. Because before I call it a day, before I end this recording, we are not just simply rational being. We're not just merely scientific in nature. But why scientific in nature? Because we have the tendency to look for answers, not just for meaning. It comes with it. But there are two folds of answering the question. There are two ways of answering the same question. And maybe a simple question will be answered by another one rather than the other one. We are not just rational beings. We are also irrational. That kind of mixture in us enable us to balance the scientific, the rational, and the irrational side of our existence without depreciating or without putting into question, let's say, for example, the veracity of belief using the lenses of science, or the scientific point of view using the lenses of belief. Sometimes we need to use a special lens, a special antipara, with the lens of science at the right and the lens of belief on the left. So that's our second lesson, our second meeting. See you again next time in the introduction to world religions.